Andy Dalton, of all people, Andy Dalton and the Saints made enough plays to go marching into the win column as they go into Philadelphia, a date with the NFL's top team, and a surprise outcome. If you did not watch this game, you would have said there's no way. Even with all of the issues the Eagles are going through, this is the New Orleans Saints. They are bad. That's a bad team, the Saints. But strange things happen in the NFL. I'm not saying that this is some kind of gambling conspiracy. I'm not going there at all. It's just a very, let's call it an oddity. We'll call it an oddity, which began early on in the day as the New Orleans Saints setting the tone. They came out on a 15-play, 80-yard drive. Touchdown for the New Orleans Saints, and that's setting the tone as they go on and get the win. We watched so you would not have to. We had this game in our rotation. Jalen Hurts missing his second straight start with a sprained right shoulder, and that meant Gardner Minshew was under center. And how did that go? Well, we mentioned Andy Dalton, 204 yards. He completed his first 13 passes. Completion. And Taysom Hill, he had a 1-yard touchdown run. And the Saints, who led this game 13-0, never trailed, although there were a couple of moments in the second half you expected them to trail when the Eagles had the ball down 13-10 and matriculating the ball down the field. But in the end, it's the New Orleans Saints 20 and the Philadelphia Eagles 10. So New Orleans 7-9. They've won 3 straight, and they remain vaguely alive. The better story, though, in the losing locker room, where the Eagles at 13-3 have now lost 2 straight games without Jalen Hurts and are in stranger danger of missing the number 1 seed in the NFC. All right, so let us discuss the question. What stands out from this latest Eagles defeat here? I've got Bubbly, Cannon, and Orville Redenbacher. And we will combine all of these things together, and pound for pound, we are going to win this Maller monologue. So number one. Let me try that again. There we go. All right. It's a new year. The buttons aren't working quite right. All right. So this was the word lethargic would be the way I would describe it. A lethargic performance by Philly. Our friend Fats in Philly, who listens to us, I think he would have given more of an effort early in this game on offense. He did not have that on my list of probabilities. When we handicapped these games, I did not think that the Eagles would come out of the gates the first, I think it was 4 or 5 drives of the game, 3 plays and a punt. 3 plays and a punt. And that's exactly what happened. First 4 drives of the game, Philly came out, 3 plays and a punt, 3 plays and a punt, 3 plays and a punt, 3 plays and a punt. And that's how that went. And this has always been the concern of mine over the years. This time of the year, you have a lot going on. Tis the holiday season, wrapping up with the main event, New Year's Eve. And the Eagles, a very uncharacteristic befuddlement at the hands of a team that they should have beaten, even with their backup quarterback in there, by at least 10 points. But instead, Philadelphia caught sleepwalking. To the credit of New Orleans, they were not sleepwalking. And it makes you wonder, did the Eagles have a little too much bubbly at midnight the night before? Party hardy, as we like to do here, burn the midnight oil. A lot of amateurs on New Year's Eve try to be like us and burn the midnight oil, and they can't handle it. There was no edge at all on offense. Mentioned the offense coming out, those first 4 drives, punt on 3 plays, sluggish. Now, we are still card-carrying Minshew maniacs. We like Gardner Minshew, but that was a bag-o'-crap performance by Minshew. It was not all on him, but it was a mistake-filled debacle. And how bad was it? Minshew had 2 fumbles. Now, the Eagles recovered both, but also a pick 6 to Marshawn Lattimore. Was sacked 6 times, 5 in the first half. And Philly shut out in that first half. Goose egg, Zippo, 0, Bupkis, nothing. And the Eagles had a grand total of 2 first downs and 61 yards of offense in the first half. 2! Now, keep in mind that New Orleans is a middling defensive team. They're in the middle of the pack in many defensive stats. For example, they rank 14th in scoring defense. And even the good defensive numbers for the Eagles are skewed because they play in the division, the NFC South, where offenses go to die. It's a graveyard for good offense, the NFC South. And overall, the Eagles had 11 first downs the entire game. 11. That seems like a low number. It does. It is. It's the fewest, we are told, that the Eagles have had in a game going back in almost a decade to 2014, the last time Philadelphia Eagle offense was more futile than this offense that showed up on Sunday as they were the quality of toilet water. All right, now, page 2. Is the success this season, the 13 wins with Jalen Hurts, is it because of Jalen Hurts, or are the Eagles that good? And what's going on? Try to explain it to me. All right, so I did a monologue a couple weeks ago, and I pointed out I did not believe the loss of Jalen Hurts would in any way derail what's going on in Philadelphia. And am I changing my position at this point? I'm not, because to me it's not a Jalen Hurts issue, whereas if you put Jalen Hurts in there, my belief is, having watched the Eagles against the Cowboys and then against the Saints, is they would have still lost those games. It's deeper than just saying, well, if Jalen Hurts was back, everything would be fine. Now, I understand from a morale standpoint, that's an issue. But Philadelphia collectively as a whole, they were zipping along, right, and then they reached the flood zone. And now they're guilty of truancy in this game. They were not. They blew the game against Dallas, but they played a pretty good game. They were a little sloppy. And they were sloppy again in this game here against the New Orleans Saints. But when you take 3 steps back and, fire off the cannon, but not the cannons, as in the Canon wide-angle lens, the foundation in Philadelphia, it's not so much Jalen Hurts, it's everything around the team is crumbling. The war of attrition is rearing its ugly head, and that is the issue. And a lot of people just overlook that because it's simpler to just say, well, if only Jalen Hurts was playing. Well, now you've got the offensive tackle, Lane Johnson's got a groin injury. He's out. 2 highly rated defensive backs, Avonte Maddox, he's got a bad toe. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he lacerated his kidney several weeks back. Both of those guys are out. There's other players who are dinged up. The Eagles went from a team that played a lot of man coverage, for example, to mostly zone coverage against Andy Dalton and Taysom Hill. And what does that tell you? That tells you that the coaching staff in Philadelphia does not trust the backup defensive backs that are playing, even against a second-rate stiff like Andy Dalton. Well, that is a bad sign. It's also a dead giveaway. That is a dead giveaway. And it was just sloppy, more sloppy McSlop for the Birds. Last 2 weeks against the Cowboys and Saints, Eagles have had 5 fumbles, haven't lost them all, but 5 fumbles and 3 interceptions. If you go back even further, with Jalen Hurts playing his last game when he injured his shoulder in the game against the Bears, Philly had a fumble in that game and 2 interceptions. So the last 3 games, the Birds have had 6 fumbles and 5 interceptions. And I didn't play in the NFL, but I just do an overnight show. I think that sucks. I think that blows. Eagles are playing like a team that, dare I say, peaked too soon. They peaked too soon. There's a lot of weird crap going on in the NFC. The Vikings are frauds. The Eagles look like they're falling apart. What's going on? All right, final point. Now we get down to a very interesting part of the conversation. Would the Eagles be better off playing Jalen Hurts, assuming he's cleared to play, in Week 18 to seemingly wrap up the number 1 seed against the Giants, who have nothing to gain, or not play him and risk that the Cowboys take care of business, and then you drop all the way down to the number 5 seed? in the NFC. That's the difference between winning the NFC East and losing the NFC East if you're Philadelphia. And you're talking about having to play on the road and all that stuff, and God forbid, where if you're the number 1 seed, you got nothing but home games, and then if you get to the Super Bowl, you got to go out to Arizona and play the game in Glendale, Arizona. As of right now, the seeds will change the last week in Week 18, but the number 5 seed, Dallas, would play Tampa Bay. The number 1 seed, Philadelphia, they would have the week off. They can go to Cancun and hang out. So on this side of the microphone, it is a no-brainer. There's no decision here. And again, I'm a fan of Gardner Minshew. But if Jalen Hurts is able to go, you put him under center, play the man. And I've never been a fan of coaching scared. I don't believe in coaching scared, or it's ridiculous. A lot of these teams do it. And while we support Minshew from, as we mentioned, a morale boost, putting Hurts back out there would make sense. But if only that's all it took, that if just merely dropping Hurts back in, parachuting him in, would solve everything, then you'd say, okay, it's manageable. But the Eagles have bigger issues here. They need to hire Orville Redenbacher because they've got popcorn problems. The secondary's got issues, as we said, offensive line. As Gardner Minshew was sacked. Now, not all of that was on the offensive line. There was also some incompetence by Minshew, not getting rid of the ball quick enough, making poor decisions. You got to have a good internal clock, and he did not on some of those plays. And we can go on and on. But it sure looks like the Eagles are a team that peaked at the very top of the mountaintop, and now the foundation is showing some cracks here. And you got a bunch of people who are under the weather. And what do you do at this point? You got one game left. Are you just going to count on the Giants not showing up? Well, all right. Anyway, let's hear from some of the key participants in this game. Now, Gardner Minshew Mania. He's got the razzmatazz, but not the numbers to back it up. He did average 8.6 yards per pass, which is pretty good. But he was sacked 6 times, Gardner Minshew, in this game, and had the pick 6 that derailed the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's Gardner's trying to be Mr. Positive when he looks ahead. Mr. Positive here.
We have everything we've ever wanted still in front of us. It's all right here. I'm going into a big game next week. We're all excited to get out there. This team doesn't flinch, we've gone through a lot. Adversity's hitting us now, and, that's okay.
Yeah, it's right out of sports cliche. Every team, there's so much adversity. Yes, I know. All right, it's wonderful. Anyway, here's more from Gardner Minshew, who points out that this was just not the Eagles' day.
We never panicked or stressed or pressed. We believed in the plan, we believed in the guys, and just couldn't make it happen.
There you go. Couldn't make it happen. Let me put on my jorts and walk away. All right, now Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Eagles, for now. That's a temporary job. Here's Sirianni, who, again, you can tell there's a talking points memo that somebody in the PR department, we can speculate who gave it to him, maybe it was the coaching staff, but there's a certain theme to the comments. Gardner Minshew said everything's in front of us and all that stuff. Here's Nick Sirianni, who points out that the division is right there.
From the very beginning, has just always been about taking it one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Trying to go 1-0 each day. In attempts to go 1-0 this week. And this week, obviously, it was disappointing what we did today, coaching, playing, everything. But next week, we'll have a chance to win the division title at home.
Does it ever get old, the cliches here that are free-flowing? Oh, my God. Oh, man. The shtickala. Boring. Anyway, here is more from Nick Sirianni, a man that has no original idea or a thought in his head. Here's Sirianni, who is repeating the talking points memo about positivity.
We're here right now. We're 13-3 right now, and with a chance to go 14-3 next week to win the division. And so all our goals are in front of us. And anytime you lose a game, anytime you don't perform the way you think you should perform, you're going to be upset. You're going to be humbled. That's not a bad thing. You go back to work and you get better from it.
Yeah. I think I've done this job too long. I know when I come in here to the studio some version of what coaches are going to say, right? Oh, they just made more plays than we did. This game's not going to define us, I'm really proud of this team. Credit to the other guys, though. They practice too. We'll correct it. Can't feel sorry for ourselves. All that nonsense. Or you can go like Dave Roberts. I really liked him in that spot. Oy, 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 oy.